So when it comes to the what portion, that's where we have to go back to the fundamentals. And mainly the fundamentals are divided into major three financial statements: balance sheet, income statement, and statement of cash flows. Pretty simple. I mean, we want to understand these fundamental stories behind these books, and I mean, understanding balance sheet is pretty much very easy. If you have assets, though the total of the liabilities plus the shareholder equity should be equal to the assets, and it always is. I mean, the accountants are pretty good, and they take care of that, and that's how it is. When you open a balance sheet, you can clearly see that example as well. So let's take in chart. Can you type which stock you want to analyze? You can pick any stock you want. Josh, what do we got? Josh?
She'll get Sean.
Yeah, Sean. What did you get any stocks?
I didn't see any, no, that he pulled up yet. Somebody sent in Tesla if you want to try Tesla.
Okay. If you look at, this is a traditional way of looking at this. I mean, the traditional way of looking at this balance sheet number. I mean, the balance sheet numbers. It's pretty difficult to understand like what it is, right? I mean, if you look at this one, yeah, some of these assets are not matching. Like this is weird. But if you look at this way, right? I mean, you're looking at assets on the left side, and you're looking at liability in the top portion, and the shareholder equity on the bottom portion of the right side. Like just like how we have seen over here. Okay, just like how we have seen here. Yeah, the assets here, liabilities here, and equity here. So that's the same structure like what you get here. And these are on the assets, these are the liabilities and shareholder equity. Somehow this total is not matching. This is given. Like, so select another stock, Sean.
You could try D as in David, X as in X-ray, C as in cat, M as in Mary. DXCM.
Okay. So here you see the 2.4 billion, which is the total of the assets, and here the liabilities and the equity is matching. This is 99% of the stocks will be this way. I don't know like why Tesla numbers are different, but those are directly coming from the market data. What is being there? Like I need to take a deeper look at Tesla why it didn't match. But out of these assets, like if you look at it, this current assets are 1.97 billion, which is basically these are the assets which are going to be, these are the short-term assets. In the next 12 months, we are going to see this kind of money, 1.97 available, versus like in the liabilities section also you will see a short-term liabilities here, that is a 360.2 to 20 million. So out of 1.97 billion current assets, I mean, they have to pay, they have to make payments of 360 million in the next 12 months. So if you question yourself, like, I mean, can this company pay the liabilities in the next 12 months? Will they have any financial difficulty at all? Can you type in the chat, please? Yes or no? Yeah, looks good. Yeah. Okay. So yeah. So yeah, they can easily pay because their current assets is much higher number than the current liabilities, so they will not have any liquidity kind of issues. But at the same time, like if you look at this long term, their total assets are about 2.4 billion, and they have a liability of 1.5 billion, and they have a good amount of equity, and they did raise some capital using the stocks. Using stocks as well, and they got some debt as well. So yeah, but it's in very proportionate. If you look at the total liabilities versus the total assets, it falls within that 60% range, because 1.5 out of 2.4 billion, roughly around. Don't count me on my math, but at this moment, but it's roughly close to around 60%, plus or minus 5 here and there. But that's in the ballpark, in a very right proportionate. And they do have a good amount of reserve of $882 million that the shareholders had put in, or the initial founders had put in, like whatever, be it initial founders or be it the IPO shareholders or the current shareholders. When they buy the stock, they pump money into the company and for the company can use that money for the growth, right? So that's available. So in case they have to eat some profits and their net profits go down, in case they go down, they need some capital. They can use some portion of this equity money, which is, if it is positive. If it is not positive, then that's a difficult scenario. They have to go out and get a debt from outside. That is the only way. And what usually companies do is, in case they want money, they continue to raise debt. They go out, they seek outside money as well, and they continue to keep the reserve as well as use portion of the reserve as well. So it's a continuous cycle. For example, Apple raised money back in as soon as the Feds pushed the interest rates down, they raised about $8 billion bonds. $8 billion in bonds. They issued bonds. So which is they are willing to pay around less than 1% interest rate on those bonds, but a lot of people are interested, and those bonds are oversubscribed, and it's gone. The bonds are gone. They are able to generate that cash in about a relatively short period of time. They are able to generate that 8 billion money, and they're not they don't need technically that money right now at the moment. But what Apple has a very good strategy is financial engineering. So they keep raising money when the interest rates are low, and they buy up bonds, and they also keep investing in the long-term investments when the interest rates are high. So even though Apple has debt on books, they pay zero interest. Net, the interest that they are getting from their investments minus the interest paid on the debt, it negates that one, and they are actually getting more interest income generated from these transactions. So they have a big division who manages this under the financial office. So if you go and look at the income statement, go to the second portion of it, the income statement. Here, a simple equation. If you are bringing in $100, my expenses need to be less than $100, and whatever is left over, that's what profit, right? Very simple. And likewise, if I go to this income statement, and if I go to this annually, last year 2019, how they closed books, I can see this is they brought in about 1.48 billion revenue, and out of which they are able to preserve around 931 after taking out the cost to sell. This is what is variable cost. The cost of source good is nothing but variable cost. So if this goes to 2 billion, then this will rise. Likewise, if you look at here, the 718 million revenue, which is half of it, this also is half of it, right? Which is in proportion, pretty much very close to half of it. So that's in line. The company knows what it's doing, and they know exactly when their top line grows, then they know their variable cost also grows. At the same time, from a percentage standpoint, they're able to retain. They are able to retain much of it. See, back then in 2010, if you see, they're able to retain only 37% over here, but whereas here their gross margin is about 63%. That means they changed in the business model, they made some changes back in 2010 to 2012 and 2013, which resulted in this one, right? This is good for the stock. That's one of the reasons why this could be a strong stock. And at the same time, when you come here this is SG&A factor, right? This is what their employees and the cost that they are using to pay all the employees. And of course, research and development also is part of the employee cost itself, or it could be a hard cost money in terms of dollars as well, both factors. So if they combine these two costs, that's what they are establishing the company for future growth. And if you see here, like in 2017, where their revenue was half of it, and here if you look at it, if they add these two, right around 530, this total is 530 versus 600, 800. So from a 530 million to 800 million, they are able to double the revenue. That means the costs have grown less and the revenue has doubled. I mean, this is a fixed cost. There is a little bit of variable cost as well. But to me, variable cost is a little bit less risky, I mean, to whatever industry this is in, because they are able to generate more profits. And it also goes by like which industry you are in also. Like, I mean, if you are in a services industry, variable cost is also high. Or if you are in the product side of it, then you are, when it costs to carry inventory, and there are certain things that get adds up as well. So if you look at if you click on this date, you can also see like a little bit differently. I mean, this is all the income side. This is the expenses side, and these are divided into the variable expenses and this one as well, right? So if you look at, and one of the factors that you can look at is you can see the comparison also. Like from 2017, we have seen the revenue is doubled, right? It's about 105% growth in revenue, and there is a 89% growth in the gross margin in terms of dollars, and operating percent also grow. Operating profit also grew 400% growth in that one. So from the 2017 number. So it's a comparison between 2017. This is what it's giving. Like, I mean, is it a green or a red? Like, so and most of it is green over here. And they are paying income taxes. Probably is not a good thing for a shareholder, but good thing for the government. So yeah, and when you go up to the cash flow analysis, so are they generating free cash flow? So yes, the answer is yes. And if you look at here, back then in 2013, when they are changing the business model back in 2010 to 2013, they are not generating the free cash flow. That means they are bringing more money in, because every time they make less money in the free cash flow, they need to bring money from somewhere. It can be either from the debt, or it can be from the stock. Whichever is easier for them and whichever makes sense for them. So that's how those are the two forms of bringing money into the company. Of course, they are paying their. If you look at the share-based compensation as well, they are paying well. They're paying $100 million in terms of share-based compensation, and despite after that, like, they are getting a profit of net income, 100 million, right? Okay. So if you, for the same company, if you go look at the stock overview, so yeah, this company makes the medical products, and you can see like they're making the glucose monitoring machines for diabetes, like diabetes, and it's a grade C stock. I mean, after all the analysis, like from a grading model standpoint, it's not good. So if you go look at the screen which shows the historic grades. We didn't add that. Okay, so it's a grade C stock coming here. We go to a different account. Yeah. So yeah, it's not. I mean, this is not like a stock which I would trade from after looking at the grade C stock. But from a fundamental overview standpoint, like it looks very nice. But from a fundamental grading standpoint, it didn't like it because let's go to this industry, med products industry and medical sector. Like so, let's do that way. Like so. We stock. If you go to this, I mean, everybody who has access to Delphian has access to this one as well. You can go to the industry overview. See, the stock by itself looked good, but when in relation to the industry, it doesn't look good. It is below average. It is performing below average. It could have done much better from an industry standpoint. Let's give it a minute. Okay, medical, the med products. So you can see like how much of a sub industries that this has four sub industries, and the proportion of it is more on the medical and dental supplement industry. Like 70% of the revenue is coming from that in these companies. So if you come to these Delphian grades here, you can see the grades for all the companies in that particular industry. Okay, so you can see like some of these stocks, they are coming. This is revenue in billions, and these are all the A grade stocks. Do you see anything that's interesting that you want to analyze? You see Algen is there, ALGN is there. Like, yeah, let's take ALGN and then show that one too. Yeah, it's a A-grade stock with a 84 score. So it's very high from a fundamental standpoint. Look at the financials as well, like so. I would do the same thing. I mean, here if you look at it from a balance sheet, let's start with the balance sheet first. Yeah, so it's a relatively very similar company to this one, right? I mean, so it's about 2.5 billion assets and very similar to the other one too. And even including the liabilities and the current assets also it's strong, like 1.6 to 1.15, and even the liability ratio also is pretty much very close. So yeah, this is a good comparison. So we can also do one more thing, and we can compare ALGN versus DXCM and see how different they are. So if we go to this relative financials here in the stock overview, it automatically pulls the, it did pull DXCM, it did not pull DXCM, but we can change that symbol. We can take away DXCM. So here I have LGN across the same this thing, and here we have DXCM as well, like so. So in terms of revenue, it's slightly bigger company, and DXCM variable cost. See, this one variable cost is little lower when in relation to this one. If I compare this one, you can say DXCM. So here you can see like horizontal. Yeah. So revenue is 62% higher. Gross profit is around 86% higher. Operating profit is also higher. So by all means, like I think ALGN is doing good. From a balance sheet standpoint also, like we can do the same thing. So all you do is like you go to this stock fundamentals and pull up that stock what you want to look at it, and you go to this related tab and you click on, if you don't see a symbol like what you want to compare, it automatically pulls the top 10 correlated symbols for that company. But if this is not correlated symbol from a stock price standpoint, it doesn't pull that one. Then you manually change that symbol, click on that and put that symbol, and you click on this stock, and you can come and select the stock what you want to compare against. So here from an asset standpoint, yeah, they have more cash. I mean, ALGN has more cash in terms of percentage, 23% more cash than DXCM, and the short-term investments are less. And the net receivables, they're yet to get a lot more money in the next 12 months. And likewise, they have more plants and they are equipped for growth. They are equipped to go to scale. And whenever you see there's a goodwill, means like this company has done much more acquisitions than the DXCM. That means they are scaling fast and growing fast from an ALGN standpoint.